Welcome to Cyber Mayhem. The match will begin in 3, 2, 1. Flags have been planted. Your team has owned a user flag. Your team has cloned a machine. Warning, your team is losing availability points. May your experience lead you to victory.
Welcome everyone to another Hack the Box meetup. So tonight we have a guest speaker. Many of you will remember Chris from our September 2021 meetup, where he walked us through some of the red teaming certifications he completed. Tonight he's back to tell us about his first red team engagement where he had to build and plant a malicious device in a client network. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand over to Chris, and he'll also tell us about the upcoming CTFs and the agenda for the rest of the evening. So welcome, Chris. I'm handing over to you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for allowing me to speak here again. Yeah, to waffle on about some some stuff that I've experienced while carrying on with my journey through this infosec industry. Yeah, you can kill my feet there because I'm jumping between two screens here, so it might look a bit awkward. Yeah, thanks, man. Okay, so just a quick agenda there. I'm not gonna go through what the agenda is about. So just so you guys have an idea of what I'm going to be talking about, what we're going to be doing in sections. I'm going to try and keep it a lot shorter than the last time because I went over the time a bit the previous time. Just a bit of housekeeping things. So the YouTube questions that you're going to ask, I'm pretty sure it's going to filter through on the screen here by me. So I'll keep an eye on it, and I think SpyMonkey will as well. So please ask questions as we go along. Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer questions, or if you want to tell me that whatever I'm saying is nonsense, I'm also perfectly happy to hear that. Afterwards, we'll join on Discord for a bit of Hack the Box fun. I see that you guys have already started there on that Office, or on that paper box rather. I quite enjoyed that because I'm the Office fan. And then after this presentation, there's going to be a little bit of a quiz. I think there's some prizes in that to be won. So yeah, listen and watch carefully about what I'm going to be discussing here, because the questions will come directly from the slides here. Okay, then on the 15th of March, there's a CTF coming up, Eco CTF, that the Hack South guys are going to take part in. If you haven't taken part in a CTF yet, can more than recommend doing that. Take part, even if you might not feel that you've got the skills. You can always learn from the guys, and it's nice working in a team with the guys. I mean, that's where my CTF career, if I can call it a career, started. By joining up from someone saying something in one of the Discord channels on Hack South, and I joined the one weekend. Yeah, I enjoyed it. We've done that now. So yeah, 15th of March, Eco CTF. If I do recall correctly, that is a beginner-friendly one. So yeah, see if you can make that. Okay, just a quick overview of who I am. If you listen to the previous talk, I would have gone a little bit more in depth about that, but I won't this evening. My name's Chris Meistre, and I just go by the handle Chris Meistre basically everywhere. So you can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever. Mostly active on LinkedIn and Twitter. I try and share stuff that I learn during the day while busy with courses or that I learn on the job and all that. So like trying to share the knowledge. My actual job description is penetration tester, and I call myself an aspiring red teamer as well. I think the penetration testing that I've been doing so far in the job borders on doing red teaming as well. I think the waters get a bit muddied between the two. So there's always going to be one or the other involved in one or the other job. So I must have, like I said, this whole talk came from me performing my first red teaming physical assessment, which I wrote about quite in depth on this chrismeistre.github.io if you want to go and read about that. Yeah, so, and then just my CV is on chrismeistre.co.za, but that needs to needs to get updated at some point. Okay, then just quickly a disclaimer about what I'm going to be talking about. I mean, this is literally the first time that I've had to build something like this for my very first red team physical assessment engagement as well. So please take whatever I'm going to say with a grain of salt. I'm more than happy to take suggestions, or if there's improvements, or if you guys can see something that I could have done better, or yeah, just anything. The reason I want to have this discussion with people is because I want to learn and try and build up, and hopefully by the next time I make lesser mistakes. Just coming back to where I wrote about the actual engagement, you'll notice I made quite a bit of mistakes during that engagement. So, and I think I learned from that. So that's why that's why I say I want to talk about the things here. And then just, I always say, do your own research, and don't take, if I say the sky is blue, don't take it as a fact. Go and make sure that the sky is actually. Oops, okay. Then, okay, getting to the nitty-gritty of it. I'm just going to repeat. If you guys have any questions, anything, just throw them in the comments. I can see them here, and we can just discuss it as it comes up. Okay, so first of all, what is a Dropbox? In my mind, it's just a little mini computer or a little device that you can use, that you can plug into someone's network, that you basically have access directly into the network from that device. So it's like almost like going into office, taking your computer, your laptop, plugging it into your network, and you have direct access to their network. So this is exactly the same principle. It's just in a lot smaller scale. And the reason for the smaller scale is for the stealthiness of it. So you can make up a little box, go and plug it in somewhere. It's going to go unnoticed, not like a laptop or something that you'll plug in. So, and it's quite nice. I mean, and these Raspberry Pis that are now used, I'm quite impressed with them, what you can do with it, and the amount of info that's available. And then obviously then you can have your own tool set installed on those devices. So I installed a complete Kali operating system on there, and I had access to all the tools that I would normally have access to. So that was quite nice for me. Okay, and then why use one, which I sort of touched on anyway. It gives you access directly into the connected network, and it's quick and easy to drop and leave. And the whole reason I went down this path of building a little box for myself to go and use is because during the first reconnaissance of the premises of one of the stores, I noticed that there was a Ethernet jack that was open, and that I would easily be able to plug something in without anybody noticing. So that was the whole reason for me going down this path. I built one and made sure that with my first visit to the store, if I can call it that, I wanted to make sure if I got the opportunity, I wanted to plug the thing in there. So and that's where my research started into how can I build one of these things. Because you always hear when you listen to red teaming stories on podcasts or wherever that the guys make use of these things. So I was always curious. Just a quick rundown of like the hardware and things that I've made use of and played around with. So I've got a Raspberry Pi 3. The 3 is an older model, but right now there's limited stock available throughout the world. So I basically made use with what I could find. I had a Pi 0 as well. The only problem with the Pi 0, it doesn't have the Ethernet jack on it, so I had to buy the extra hat that goes on there to give it an Ethernet port. And then I also got a little battery pack that you can plug into the Raspberry, so that would give uninterrupted power supply if the power got unplugged for some reason, or the power went off. It would allow me to run a bit bit on the box. In hindsight, that 3000 milliamp hours battery is not sufficient to run the type of scans and things that are needed to run at the end of the day. It was quite a big network. I had access to basically the whole network, which meant multiple stores, multiple servers and things at the head office. So that if I tried to run the thing just on the battery, I would have probably had half an hour worth of scanning before the thing just fell over. Then I made use of a mobile Wi-Fi little router as well. If you read my story, you'll see that after the second time that I went back to the store, after the first time, I realized that I wouldn't have access to the internet through the physical network cabling, the Ethernet, just the way that everything was set up there. So I had to regroup and find another way and actually get a way to connect this little box to the internet. And so I made use of the mobile Wi-Fi, and then in the interim, I've also started playing around with this USB stick that you can use. This used to be quite popular back in the day when we just started using like Vodacom GPRS and that. So you could stick a SIM card in here and connect it up to the Raspberry, and then you basically have a modem that you can dial out to the internet through making use of a cell phone network. Then the software that I used, Kali, like I mentioned, obviously it's the ARM version of it. ngrok I used. That was also sort of a hindsight thing. Once I had access to the Raspberry Pi on premises back from my office, I realized how slow everything was due to the multiple pivoting that I had set up for myself to make use of. So yeah, the ngrok actually works out brilliantly. Auto SSH is just to set up a SSH reverse shell back to our C2 server, and then WA supplicant to connect to the little MiFi router, so the device would have internet access through that. And then I set up the router of the Dropbox itself as well as a access point, so that I could stand there with my cell phone or my laptop and connect directly to the Raspberry in case I needed to do any config changes, which ended up helping me a lot. Let's see. Yes, okay, Deadbeef, I see you asking about how do I promote this question again? Yeah, so I see you asking about the SIM card hat. That's exactly what I'm planning on doing, and I have actually ordered one earlier in last week, which for the next one I'll definitely use that. And okay, I'm not sure how to get these questions on the things. Call must spy monkey. You can maybe just plonk them out.
So, which question do you want to take?
No, just that wide. You can maybe just, as the questions come up, pop them on the screen. I know the previous time I actually used.
Cool, I'll just do that.
Because I see someone is asking. Yeah, so I mean that's what that WA supplicant is for, is to allow you to set up an automated way of connecting to any access point. So if I had previous knowledge of any of the access points, for example, I would be able to set it up in the office, put the wireless key in everything, so that once it's there, it connect to the network. I hope that explains that. And then there's a question about, there we go. I basically just used the 64. I don't actually know why I used that instead of the 32. It just sounded better, I suppose. I think I'm just used to working with the 64 bit. If there's any reason to use the 32 bit instead of the 64, I'm open to hear why. Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, I'll make the slideshow available. And what I'll actually do, if you go and look on my blog, that chrismeister.github.io, earlier today, I published a complete walkthrough on how I built the box. So there's commands that you can run. Basically, if you do it step by step, the theory is that you'll end off with the same box that I had. Please note that I haven't had time to like spell check and everything. I'm not really promoting it besides telling you guys about it. So if you want to go and have a look at that as well, step by step, it will guide you from downloading Kali ARM to getting it onto a micro SD card, getting your thing booted up the first time, setting up basically all the pivoting and the callbacks and everything that I did. So please, and again, if you guys are going to have a look at that, please let me have some feedback if you have trouble getting anything to work. For my idea with that was to build a little roadmap for the next time that I need to do something like that, or if anybody else works with me, there's at least a guideline on getting that to work. Because it took me quite a while to get everything working and playing around with it. Okay, then the C2 or the command and control server, I just set up a Linode VPS myself, and I installed Kali on that VPS as well. I wrote previously on about how to install Kali actually on Linode as well. So if anybody is interested in that, I quite like. I know there's a lot of people that are of the opinion to do your own little distro or start with a mini version of whatever Linux distro you want to use and install your toolset as you need. I just prefer dumping everything on there, and then I know that when it comes down to it, I know the tool is going to be there. I don't need to go and try and get stuff set up. Okay, then let's talk about the connections and things that I set up. So first of all, to be able to connect to the Dropbox itself. So this would allow me, for example, if I'm in the shop, I've deployed the thing, and I realized for XYZ reason, this thing isn't working the way I thought it was going to be. Because remember, I went into this with very limited knowledge. I tried to do some recon. I did phishing over the phone to try and figure out how the network is set up, etc., etc. So I had limited knowledge. I based a lot of my the things that I set up on my own assumptions, and they were wrong assumptions. For example, there wasn't any internet connection through the Ethernet port, which was weird for me. I thought the worst case scenario, I would get to a workstation there. There would be a proxy server, for example, that was set up that I could quickly just get out of the browser, set it up on the on Dropbox, and be able to gain access to the internet like that. So it's quite important. You need a way to connect to the little Dropbox to make those little changes on site. So I used the hostapd, which basically just is a little daemon that runs on the Dropbox that turns the Dropbox into an access point as well. So you can set up a wireless SSID name for it, key, everything exactly like you would set up your own Wi-Fi router. So that's quite cool. I set that up. Then I also connected it to the actual wireless access point that I had, that MiFi little router that I showed you earlier on. And then I made sure that the laptop I carried with me and my cell phone were also paired with that wireless access point. So if anything would have happened and the host APD didn't spin up for some reason, I would still have access via the access point because both devices would have been connected to the access point. Then while I was writing these slides, I also came up with the idea of maybe it would be possible to also set up Bluetooth. The reason I was thinking about that is because I set up a Ponagorchi thing for myself in last week as well, just to play around with it. And the way that I connect to that device is making use of my cell phone via Bluetooth. So that's something that I definitely want to explore. So I just included it in here to just as another option to actually connect to the device. I don't know if there's any questions on that. Then the next step was obviously to get internet connection, because without an internet connection, there's no way of actually accessing the Dropbox. So again, I've got it connected to the wireless access point. I made use of WAPS supplicant to automatically connect to the wireless access point that I had with the box. And then also, like I said, afterwards, I didn't use this in the actual engagement, but I used the USB stick with the SIM card. That worked quite well as well. And like someone mentioned earlier, the the next version of this will definitely have the SIM card act, because that just makes the thing a smaller profile, that you don't have extra USB stick plugged into the thing. And then just as another option, I mean, if you don't have access to the wireless access point, the Wi-Fi router, or a USB stick that you can use, or even the SIM card add, you can use if you've got a spare phone lying around, you can set it up as a hotspot and just add it into the little bundle that you can be using as your Dropbox. Obviously, it again makes the profile of the Dropboxes a bit more. Okay, then to call back home. So once the device is on site, it's connected to the internet, I need a way to connect, or I need to be able to access that Dropbox. So I definitely over-engineered this. Having spoken to someone else about this afterwards, they asked me, why did I not just set up port forwarding on the access point that I've got on that I've added with the Dropbox, which makes complete sense. I mean, install something like bin DNS, get a dynamic DNS service running, and then just access it through forwarding the SSH port internally. And I will be completely honest, I didn't even think of that. But the thing is, I enjoyed building this thing so much, and I think this is where the reason I over-engineered things a little bit much. Like you'll see, I've got fail-safe upon fail-safe, which is probably not necessary. But anyway, getting back to the things that I set up to call back home. So the reverse SSH back to the C2 server that we've got, making use of that auto SSH and the private key that you've got on both of the devices. So that worked quite well. It allowed me to connect to our C2 server and then connect to the Dropbox. So that ended off being a lot slower than I initially anticipated it to be, and that's the reason I installed ngrok. Now, ngrok is a awesome little utility that you can use. It's a free, if you but with limited connections in that basically you run it on your internal box. It creates a tunnel to their servers basically and gives you a public address, and you can use that public address to connect them from your attack box to connect directly to the Dropbox. So I've been using that ngrok for quite a while, and like even during CTX, you often have stuff that needs to call back to you. And then right at the beginning, I used to have a VPS set up, but it's always nicer for me to have everything running on my own Kali VM on my machine. So I use that ngrok a lot now during CTX. So if you want to do things like cross-site scripting and things like that. And then also OpenVPN, you can set up. I mean, that's as long as you've got internet access, OpenVPN to your C2 server. Obviously, you connect to the VPN from your attack box, and then you're on the same network basically to be able to do what you need to do. So just to go through that again, so the reverse SSH was so slow because I had to pivot from my attack box to our C2 server to the Dropbox to be able to run the stuff. And anybody that's worked with any type of pivoting, like using proxy chains and all that, it's very slow to do normal tasks. Okay, then automation that I set up, the reverse SSH. If you go through the guide that I set up, for some reason I couldn't get a service running that allowed the SSH connection to stay open the whole time. So if it would drop, the service wouldn't pick up that it dropped and wouldn't reconnect it. I probably need to read a bit more about why that doesn't want to work. But then I came across Auto SSH, and then I just set up like a cron job that checks every 5 minutes. That saved me that little cron job, because initially when I deployed the first Dropbox that I had that had internet connection and was working nicely, by the time I got back to the office, I realized that I was sitting with a heating problem with the Dropbox that I had there, because their server room was so incredibly hot. While I was there deploying the thing, I was sweating so much that I was like dripping sweat onto my laptop, and I thought that might be a problem, but while I was there testing the thing in the limited time, it didn't appear to affect it too much. But by the time that I got back to the office and started running like little nmap scans and all that, the thing would just completely fell over. So I think, and it seemed that the Raspberry was actually restarting itself as well. So then I would just have to wait 5 minutes and I would get back on again. But yeah, that was completely unusable. But it was nice having the cron job, so that I knew that, okay, someone didn't actually find the box. It's just that the machine is failing. Then ngrok I also set up as a service. If you go and look at my GitHub page, github.com/Chris Meistre, shared that as well. It's just a small little config file that you can add this ngrok as a service to make sure that it runs the whole time that you've got that connection going to ngrok, like almost permanently. The WPA supplicant, I had to set that up as a service as well. I found that sometimes it lost the connection. And then also the hostapd I set up as a server just to make sure that whenever the thing boots up, it will come back on. Okay, then like I just already explained, like pivoting, I was able to, if I'm logged into our C2 server, I could connect directly to the Dropbox. But to be able to use my own attack machine here in the office, I had to go from my attack machine, then to the C2, and then to the Dropbox. So eventually, like I mentioned, I set up the ngrok to be able to connect directly from my attack machine to the Dropbox, basically. So this is just a quick layout that I just quickly tried to put together to show like all the connections and how everything would fit together. So you've got the Dropbox that's in the internal network. You've got the firewall with no connection to the internet. Then I've got a connection from my laptop directly to the Dropbox using that hostapd. And then also with the cell phone, same thing. I've got the Dropbox connected to the wireless access point, and I've also got my cell phone and the laptop connected to the wireless access point. Then through the wireless access point, I've got access to the internet, and that would allow me connection to the C2. And from the C2, I would be able, from my Linux box here, I would be able to access the C2 and get to the wireless access point to get to the Dropbox, or I would be able to use from the Linux ngrok access point Dropbox. Okay, and then this is the little box that I ended up using to put on their wall there. Just a quick last minute hack before I left the office here. It's just a wall socket thing, and I actually wanted to, if I had more time, I was going to put an actual like a 3-prong plug plate on there to make it look like a plug. There was enough space for that. That's quite a nice little box. I think if I estimate that probably 5 centimeters, no, it must be about 7 centimeters by 7 centimeters. In there, I was able to fit the Raspberry, the Dropbox, the Wi-Fi router, and the battery pack and everything in there. So it gives you enough space, and it's not too big. It also doesn't look out of place once you put it on the wall. Okay, then just a couple of links that I used while I was building the thing. I mostly used the first two, and then later on I saw that Sing's post actually has a perfect guide on building these things, which would have saved me a lot of time if I found it at the start. So I definitely think it's worth going through these ones if you're planning on doing something like this yourself. And yeah, that's the end of it. If anybody has any questions. No. No, you don't need to pay. So when you've got ngrok connected, so I think, and I speak under correction, I think you've got one connection that you can add to ngrok, and I'm not sure how many ports, but anyway, once you've got a connection set up, the one is free for business. I know you can log into their interface that they've got for you. There's like a management console, and you can actually see the connections that you currently have running. So you would never have to know, okay, your thing is connecting to 8.tcp.ngrok.io. You can just log into the interface, and if it had to reboot, for example, and connect to a new address, you can just see it there. So you don't need to keep track of what address you actually connected to.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we had. I just liked your blog post, and it sort of seemed like by the third day you were like one of the employees at the site, and everyone knew you, and you were just walking in and walking out. And I think you mentioned in your blog post that after the heating issues, you just left your laptop there. So that's why I was laughing when you mentioned it's not like a laptop. It's very inconspicuous.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go too much into talking about the actual engagement, but I did quite enjoy this. I learned quite a bit about humans in that. That you always hear these stories, and it's like, no man, it can't be that easy, and it is actually. And like you say, I was like one of the people there already greeting the security guard. He knew when I walked in there, they didn't search my bags. Yeah, it's just if I knew that from the start, I wouldn't have built the Dropbox. I would have gone in there with the laptop first day, connected up. But I mean, I learned a lot, and in fact, I actually set up the laptop exactly like I set up the Dropbox so that I had connection to it. So
yeah.
I mean, I do also mention in my post of the physical engagement, I actually feel bad afterward because there's a lady that's still waiting for me to come and fix IT problems for her, and it's like, okay, shame. I really hope that someone went to go help her.
Sure. Here's another question. I think I just added now.
Okay, okay. Well, to answer that question, no, the Dropbox was not caught. I eventually installed the Dropbox first in one of their offices with that little box that I showed you earlier. But right next to another box that looks exactly like that, so that worked out perfect for me. No one saw it. I mean, the next time I came back to move the thing after it didn't work, no one had said anything about it. Then I moved on to plugging one into the actual server room, into the network cabinet. Again, no one mentioned anything or noticed anything. And then at the last time that I went there, I literally took my laptop and went to go and plug my laptop in, and again, no one noticed. I was just part of the furniture at that point.
Right. So I think if there are no additional questions, Chris is on Discord. So if you think of a question later, we have one question about explaining Bash, but I recommend joining the Hacksoft Discord, and we'll pick it apart there. I think that's not really on topic with this presentation. So if you want to join our Discord, you're very welcome, and we'll happily explain Bash and other hacking tools and things if you want. So
yeah, please guys, my DMs are always open. I mean, I like talking about this stuff. I like interacting with people, learning from other people. So if you have something to ask or anything like that, that's how I learn best as well, by people asking me questions, forcing me to think outside the box.
There's one more question here from Alex.
Okay, the client reaction to that's a bit difficult to put that to words. I don't. We had a technical debrief with them. I think about a week and a half after sending them the report that detailed everything, showed them the photos of what we had access to, explained to them, listen, I could actually, not worst case scenario, but in a very bad scenario, steal from the employees. I mean, there were purges open. The accounting software was open for me. I showed them a screen, for example, that I was at one button away from assigning an employee a loan. And so, yeah, I had that in the report for them. And by the time we met with them, they were almost, in my opinion at least, a little blasé about the fact that, okay, we now got access to the network and the main admin rights and everything through that, but it wasn't through like a technical aspect, if I can call it. It wasn't like through their website that had a vulnerability or something like that. So I don't think, maybe they didn't understand initially the repercussions of it. I think towards the end of the meeting, the guys seem to have caught on to the fact that, okay, this is actually a serious issue. Mitigation, I don't know how they're going to fix it, to be honest. I don't think it's something that is fixable, even if you listen to other people like in the industry talking about it. And I'm basing my opinion off that, obviously. you're not going to fix people's behavior that easily. I mean, this was purely a human factor thing. I mean, they trusted the fact that I came in there, I looked neat, I had the computer bag with me, I looked like I was there to help them with IT stuff. So that's a bit difficult to change. They are going to change policies and things like who they're going to confirm with before any like contractors and things come on site now. How good or well that's going to be implemented, obviously, I don't know. We'll probably in a year's time do a test again and see if anything has come of it.
What about so I get sort of what you're saying. The responses like IT people are saying like that's more of a physical security problem, but could they have like segregated their networks, like made multiple Active Directory trees or something to tier things so you couldn't get head office Active Directory admin?
Yeah, so no, that's actually a good point. So one of the recommendations that we made to them was rather segment the network, because that's almost an easier task to accomplish right now than training human behavior out of humans, if I can call it that. So assume that someone is going to gain access to a store's network, but at least set it up in such a way that having access to that store isn't going to provide you access to basically the whole country's worth of stores and servers and everything. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be able to actually access the whole network just based on the fact that I didn't have internet access. I mean, that was a brownie point for them, because my initial thing that I actually was trying to do over the phone was to get them to install something like AnyDesk or something like that I could just actually access their things from the office and not have to worry about going. But based on that, I saw that, okay, they didn't have internet access, so it was giving proxy warnings and that for them. So yeah, definitely that was one of the things that they're going to implement now. And another brownie point for them, it is actually something that they are busy implementing. It happened that one of the stores that I accessed was one of the ones that they haven't done or haven't implemented the new Cisco router and that. But again, it takes one weak point.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think we will end it there. The next part of the meetup is going to be a quiz, so please join us on Discord. That'll be run by Toko, and we're going to have some prizes to give away, so please hop over to Discord, and I'll hand over to Toko there. Cheers. Thanks, everyone.